Hey, everybody, this is Hondo Carpenter, your Las Vegas Raiders beat writer on SI and the host of the Las Vegas Raiders Insider Podcast. Very excited about today, and obviously you saw our podcast with Todd Marinovich yesterday, which was phenomenal. And now I asked the author to join me, the co-author to join me, Lizzy Wright. You would know her husband, Steve, the great Raider player, who helped write this book. And I got to tell you, Lizzy, first of all, welcome to the podcast. It's great to have you.
Thank you. It's so great to be here.
And the thing that struck me is, I started reading it and I just couldn't put it down. I literally just stayed
That's
up
what
all
we're
night.
hearing.
And I stayed up all night. And there were several things that stood out with me. And I want to talk to you because here you are as the co-writer. You're taking Todd's thoughts. And first of all, your writing is brilliant. And putting his thoughts into readable form. And the thing that stood out to me was he bore his heart. And one thing as a writer, we always talk about POV, point of view, is there's multiple point of views on a story. And it just because they differ doesn't mean people lie. But the thing that really stood out to me was this is a guy that says, okay, good, bad, and the ugly, here it is, I'll give it to you. That had to be, because I've interviewed enough people, it's very difficult when you know they're trying to paint a picture.
Yeah.
It didn't seem like he was painting at all. He was just throwing it all out there.
Not at all. What was special about this is Todd even said it was a time in my life where I was ready to bare my soul. And as a writer, absolutely, that is the gold. And you know that if someone is willing to be raw and completely unfiltered, that's how you connect with people. You know, we think about books as these tangible things. They actually transcend the physical. They touch people in ways that is not always obvious. And I think that Todd had an awareness that in sharing the good, the bad, the ugly, in taking people behind the scenes, people could connect and relate to his story.
The thing that hit me is I have a friend that writes biographies, and he said some are a chore that you do for a paycheck.
Right.
He goes, and then when somebody wants their story told truthfully, he said it's almost a work of art. I got the feeling reading this was a work of art for you.
Yes. And almost in a literal sense as well, because the beauty of working with someone who has such an artistic mind, Todd could paint, like through his words, paint the picture of the scene. And as a writer, you want to paint what was everything he was seeing and feeling and reacting to in the sounds. And he is so in tune with his five senses that as a writer, it helped me paint that picture. And so that they felt like they were there. That was the goal.
So 3 parts of the book just grip me. And I wanted to ask, of course, I asked Todd yesterday about the 3, but I wanted to ask you because as you're hearing it, I wanted to hear if it gripped you. The first was early in the book when he talked about his first arrest.
Yeah.
And he obviously loved his parents. I'm not in any way implying he did not. But it was almost like he was regretting, Mom comforted me. And I didn't, that probably wasn't the best that here I got arrested in Mom's company. That hit me as a parent.
Yeah, and I remember him talking to me about that. And what he said is, you know, what no one knows is sometimes no matter what they do to help, they can't help.
Right.
And then actually he says that it just delayed his descent, right, to rock bottom. So tough, right? Complicated, especially for parents out there that are dealing with, you know, family members with addiction. What Todd's message really is lead with love. In those interactions, lead with love and compassion. That doesn't mean you try to make it all better. But what it means is when you sit with them, you are there, you are present, and they feel your love. And no matter what happens, if that's there, that is an anchor to bring folks like Todd back to themselves. And that's important, I think, for us to always remember, is it's not our job to fix. It's our job to be there, be present, and lead with love.
The thing is addiction, not me or my wife, but addiction has hit our life hard. And is that sometimes trying to comfort them rather than let them hit the bottom isn't always helping. I thought that was brilliant. And then here's the other. As a journalist, and you as a writer, I almost was angry with myself reading the book. And I'm going to be very blunt about this. So he and I are the same age. And the narrative was his dad was a health freak. His dad overpushed him. It was his dad, his dad, his dad. And then you read the book, and I'll never forget this when the part when he says, and he realized he loved the game.
Yeah.
And so the narrative was Marv, 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 and that's his father.
Yes.
But it wasn't like Todd was doing something he didn't enjoy. And throughout the book, the thread throughout the book is he loves this.
Oh, absolutely.
And so that took me back because I always thought, oh, here's a victim being forced to play a sport he didn't want to play.
Crammed to do it. Exactly.
No, he loved it.
No, I know. And that's what makes it complicated is that, especially with someone like Todd, and this is true of a lot of real high performers, they're talented in many ways, right? So the art.
Remember George Raveling wanted him to play basketball.
Exactly. I mean, he got drafted into the MLB, right? I mean, it's the level of talent, the raw athletic talent we're talking about here is remarkable in its own right. But then you take someone like Marv, whose mentality was, optimizing performance. That was his passion. So you get a child who says, I love this. This is what I want to do. How as a parent, it's complicated, right? How as a parent do you support that? Do you enable that? Do you provide the resources and whatever? I'm not just monetarily here, but where does it go too far? And this will be an age-old question. This is a question that's relevant to parents now, and why it's important to read a book like Marinovich, because it gives you some perspective on, the complications that can come out of that. And I'm not even talking worst case scenarios. I'm talking as your child is developing, how they think about themselves, their self-worth. We have a role to play in that. And Marv's expression of love undoubtedly at times was unhealthy, but it was love.
Yeah. Let me just say real quick, we gave away a couple of these yesterday with Todd. I want to give away one today. We're here with Lizzy Wright, the author of Marinovich. Phenomenal book. Just in case you're wondering, I bought mine. Because when people ask me to review a book, I don't let them give me one because I want to be able to just give an honest. You guys have heard me where I've called people and said, listen, you probably don't want me to do a review of your book. And so I always buy it, but I give them away to you guys. If you would like one, email me right now, Spartan Nation Mail, MAIL at yahoo.com. Put in the subject line Marinovich, and I'm going to take his number was 12. Let's take the 120th email. You can only email me once per email address. If you email twice, you're automatically out. But 120, take number 120, and we'll send this to you postage paid. You have to include your name and your address, and we'll get that out to you.
And those are signed copies from Todd. Now, Todd is presently in Hawaii, so this is rare to get signed copies. So
we'll get those out to you immediately. So the other thing that really stood out for me, and again, this is where I was angry with myself, was believing a narrative. This is a guy who loved his mom and dad, and they loved him.
Yes.
And there was a part in the book that literally, it made me tear up. And it's when he's getting ready to play the New York Giants.
Yeah. Well,
and he talks about how him and his dad would always tell him, come on, it's not like you're playing the New York Giants. And he calls his dad that morning, hey, do you know who I'm going to play? He goes, yeah, the New York Giants. And it was just a really warm exchange. I've had many of those with my dad. And I felt bad that I allowed myself to get the narrative that it wasn't loving, because you can't read this book. You cannot read this book, Lizzy, and even think that they didn't love each other.
I bet. Yeah, absolutely. I think that, with Marv, he had this version of good, better, best. He called it your JV, your varsity, or your all solar system. And he trained Troy Polamalu, right? So that was the level of expectation. So for Marv to say, Todd, I am so proud of you. Mm-hmm. And that was in the moment after the New York Giants game. Todd said, that was the moment he had been chasing. So it's complicated, this idea that was Marv the villain or the hero? Can you be both?
Yeah.
And I believe this story is you can be both.
And
here's how it showed in this.
And again, I'm not putting words in Todd's mouth, but so please feel free to disagree with me.
Yeah.
I think if Todd were sitting here right now, he would look at you and say, could I be both?
Yes.
That's how real he was.
Yes.
It was tangible.
Yes.
I'm going to tell you, brilliant writing by you, because it to me, it felt like you're sitting in a room like we are, and just he's telling a story to a buddy.
Yes.
It did not come across as a book. It was extremely conversational, which I commend you on, because most autobiographies are almost history books.
Yeah.
This wasn't. This flowed like a conversation.
Well, thank you for that. The thing that I think made this unique relationship work is that when my husband and Todd were teammates with the Raiders, so my husband was asked to look over Todd when he joined the Raiders. My husband was a veteran at that point. He was probably 8 years in the league at that point. And so the history with us, now I wasn't in the picture at that time, goes back that far. So when Todd and I started talking about doing his book, he knew I was already someone who was in the orbit, that I had an insider perspective. I've been part of the Raiders family for a long time now. And that is unique. It's a unique role to be an insider talking to a player. It's a privilege to get that far inside. And in fact, I remember, one of my mentors, Jeff Pearlman, amazing writer, sports writer.
Mm-hmm.
He said, "Well, you have an unprecedented access like that. That's remarkable." And so I think the book reflects that level of intimacy that I was able to have with Todd, where I wasn't grilling him necessarily. And I'm not saying that all reporters do, but I was having a conversation with him about how we talk about and how we share the experiences he's going through. And times I'd have to push or probe, and then we'd have to take a break. Right? There's some heavy things in this book.
Huge. Again, so John Feinstein was the guy I was talking about,
Yes.
the great author. And John talked about the best biographies are where they're so open that people don't even know I wrote it.
Yeah. Yes. Let me touch on that. Trudy Marinovich, his mother, when she first read the book, she said, "Sounds exactly like Todd," which to me as a writer, but if nothing else out of this book, that to me was our victory.
The other thing that came across with is this was, and I didn't think this, but I know this has been a narrative, but it was not a narrative, I believe, because of people I know who know Todd, is that you really saw this is not only a great athlete, this was a very smart, there was nothing stupid about Todd.
Oh no, absolutely. Which and his level of recollection of the incredible level of recollection of all of this. So to be at quarterback in the NFL, obviously, the level of intelligence is next level for most of us. But
I mentioned you addictions affected my family, and one of the things we learned walking through the addictive process with a family member was to be a successful addict, and obviously I'm using the air quotes, you have to be very smart.
Interesting.
Because there's a ton of people around you that love you, that are looking to not believe in you because they want to help you. And you have to be, isn't it just like the person that did it said, it's the same thing with criminals. Highly successful criminals are very intelligent. Isn't that a fascinating part? And I kept, and as the book goes on, it kept saying, oh yeah, it reminded me of that moment in my life. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Todd had to get very creative in how he navigated testing. And, there's some things in there about what he used to do to just kind of get by in the NFL.
I mentioned,
and the Arena League.
Oh, yeah.
And the CFL as well.
I mentioned to you when we first met this morning about, I'm thinking about different players and actors in his life. And I'm thinking about when he ran out of urine for drug samples.
Yes.
And so he goes and he has one of his teammates urinate in a bottle so he can use it as a sample. And he's like, well, this guy did only drinks. He doesn't do drugs.
Right.
And then he shows up and they're like, we're taking you to the hospital. You're 4 times over the legal limit.
You bet. And what's interesting about that story towards the end is that, think about this. The team has left to go to Kansas City for the game. Todd has been taken to the hospital for evaluation because of this 4 times the over the limit. He can't say, "Hey, that wasn't my pee," right? Like so he's sitting in a hospital. He knows the team is on the flight. This is where it gets crazy. He is let out. A private plane is how he recalls this. A private plane flew him to the game. He arrived well after all the other players, and he started at quarterback. So when we think about what we see on the field of what his performance was that game, and how could he have thrown that interception? If people knew that he had been in Sentinel Hospital just 8 hours prior, and the team had already arrived at the Arrowhead Stadium, and he's coming in last minute to start at quarterback, how could you have your wits about you? How could you be centered and grounded and run a team, run an offense? It's just some of these things that happened that fans didn't know about. We pull the curtain back. See, no, this is what was going on. Right, wrong, or indifferent. This is what was going on.
If you're a Raider fan, you have to get this book.
Yeah.
You have to. So remember, you can get a free autographed copy by Todd right there by emailing Spartan Nation Mail, MAIL at yahoo.com. Put in the subject line Marinovich, just your name and address. Emailer 120 will get this literally sent out today. If we get as soon as we get the 120, bam, we will get this out to you today. We want to put it in your hands. But the rest of you, go get this book. Listen, for Raider fans, I got to tell you this one. He talks about leaving the tunnel at Oakland Coliseum. And all the people for autographs.
Oakland, LA Coliseum.
Yeah, LA Coliseum, sorry.
Yeah, this story.
Okay, and all these people want autographs. And he says, and all of a sudden, the crowd parts like Moses in the waters, and up walk these 4 really big dudes. And the shot caller, basically with a teardrop tattoo, which Todd, I learned this in the book. It's a symbol of an attempted murder.
Right.
Says to Todd,
he says, "Do you want us to take care of him?" And Todd doesn't even know what they're talking about. And he said, "Jay Schrader, he wants to take care of him." Meaning, they were going to take some action because they wanted Todd to start. Todd, he's used to the Coliseum parking lot for USC games where it's buttoned up.
Country
Club, talking about your ski chalets. This is the craziest, coolest thing about the Raiders fans. They are die hard. And you guys, as crazy a scenario as that was, it showed a level of commitment and passion. And so Todd took it, it wasn't said in jest, but Todd's such a laid back surfer vibe that it's all right, man. It'll all work out. But he felt the need to say, but don't do anything to make sure, Jay Schrader wasn't going to be affected. So crazy little stories that happened where he realized there's just the commitment and the passion and the love for the Raiders. And, my husband played for the Cowboys, the Colts, and the Raiders. There's nothing like Raiders fans. And there's also nothing like the Raiders organization. I'm back here right now with my husband, former player Steve Wright. We are at the Raiders reunion. This team, this organization, bar none, takes better care of their former players and brings them back year after year so that they can connect and stay as family. That is remarkable.
Yeah.
And it's something that makes the Raiders family truly special.
So I want to go back to that moment when they threatened to take Jay out.
Yeah.
Because again, I think it shows the ethereal mind of Todd. When he said, no, because what happens when I'm the next guy? I mean, in that moment, he's not thinking, okay, I'm a young player, let's get rid of him.
Yeah.
He was thinking about A, being a good teammate to Jay.
Yes.
But B, what about when it's me?
Well, he's experienced what about when it's me.
Yeah.
So back when he was at USC, they would have pins in Todd We Trust. right? No pressure. Um, and then he had some games where he wasn't playing well, and they booed him. And his teammate, Pat Harlow, USC Raider as well, um, defended to the fans, defended Todd. So this is, you do have to remember that Todd actually teared up when that was happening. It hurt him to be booed by the fans. And just, again, have compassion, because there's so much behind the scenes, and those guys are trying to do their best. They want to win. They want to win for themselves, you, the organization. And sometimes it's just a lot going on that's not so apparent.
I was talking to a great player yesterday, and he was telling me that he appreciates that I know how to be critical of play and not critical of a human being.
Interesting. I thought you did great with that Aiden O'Connell's post you did today, actually.
That's literally what we were talking about.
Yeah.
Was he called me and said, I really appreciate how you wrote about Aiden. And because in from my view, I'll give you an example. I've had a mom call me, here's her son, multimillionaire, successful player, and crying because some journalist made a comment.
Yeah.
And she's like, how come they did that? And I'm like, I have no idea.
Yeah.
Or I'll give you, since you brought up Aiden, we'll use Aiden.
Yeah.
You'll see people will say, oh, he's a bum. Okay, he struggled at quarterback. Everybody saw it. And guess who else saw it? Aiden saw it.
Yeah.
But I know him. He's not a bum. He's a tremendous husband. He's a great human being struggling at his job right now. So you have to talk about that.
Yeah.
But you also need to remember these are human beings that have kids, that have, families. Matt Millen is a dear friend of mine.
Yes.
A dear friend. And I remember calling him and telling him, you're about to get fired. Because I didn't want to report it. And I knew he hadn't been told yet.
Oof. Yeah. It's a tough one. I think that, it's important to take people to task and important to have high expectations, but there are no higher expectations than the player has on themselves, right? And that's always there. They know they're only as good as their last play. Every play. Imagine being at your job and every email you send, that could be your last email, right? That someone is watching every step you take, how many minutes your break was, that the level of scrutiny that it is a pressure cooker. Like, I think none of us can really understand that the pressure dome that they're in, is something that we need to be conscious of as we're being critical.
Yeah, I shared with you a story earlier today. We won't name the player, but who literally, when his career was over, his wife said, I'm leaving. I mean, and I've had guys call me and say, I'm supporting my 11 brothers and sisters, my nieces and nephews.
Yeah.
And I mean, they're still humans. See, what happens is you see giant human beings like your husband and I.
Right.
Or you see these guys like a Max Crosby, and because you think of them as a gladiator and not a human.
Right.
Well, they are human.
Right. Exactly. And Todd, what's interesting about Todd's story, and actually it's true of a lot of former players, football, huge part of their life, huge passion, so many amazing memories. But they're also more than football, right?
He's an artist.
He's an artist.
As I was reading the book, so I want to tell you a quick story. At USC, kudos to his coach, who he literally found out later in life loved him.
Oh, yeah.
And that was that part of the book. That was as a matter of fact, I texted, and I'll tell you who off air, a current college head coach, and said, you got to read this book.
Oh, wow.
And I even told him what part.
Oh, you just gave me the chills.
Yeah. But the thing that really hit me is he's at USC, he's struggling, and he admits to his coach, I'm an artist. They changed his major to art, and he lit up the room.
Yeah. Yeah. the power. This is the thing about the power of a great coach, and we see this, right? We've got some amazing coaches in the NFL right now, and the Raiders are incredibly lucky to have these, right?
Incredibly fortunate.
And this idea that, sure, a great coach can, wins and all those things, but a really great coach understands their players in such a deep way that, like Larry Smith with Todd, he saw this angst, this tension and friction in Todd, and wanted to help and found a way, right? So the support to maybe go another path with his academic pursuits, to have the support of what he said felt like a father moment with Coach Larry Smith, which at times that father relationship was super tense. But for Larry to show that level of love and support for Todd at that time was huge, and it made a huge difference. And would Todd still ultimately have become an artist? Yes, he was born with this talent, but the freedom and the support to pursue it at that point in his life was really important.
Well, listen, it was phenomenal. I hope you enjoyed it. If you didn't see yesterday's interview with Todd, just trust me. You'll thank me later. Go watch it. And again, emailer number 120, we're going to get you this signed autographed book, Marinovich. I encourage all of you, and I want to say this to those of you who are parents. I think this book is very raw, but I'm not a person who thinks you hide things from your kids. So I am going to buy copies of this for my three adult children, my three adult sons. I'm going to give it to them as a gift, because I love to give them books because I want them to be good readers. But I'm going to buy those. I'm not getting them. I'm not paid for this interview. I wanted to do it, but I'm going to buy them their own personal copies of this because I want to give them this book. Because I'm going to tell you something. As a dad, my job is not to make my kids be what I want them to be. It's to help them be who they want to be. And I think it's a love story. You heard me say that yesterday with Todd. This book, to me, I think an autobiography is a fair title. I would have called it Marinovich, a love story, because this young man loved his mom and dad. And it was, how do you go? Because love isn't easy. And it was brilliantly written. Lizzy, you did a tremendous job.
Thank you.
As good as your husband is a football player, I think you're a better writer.
Oh,
and I think
you.
he's a great football player.
He's the best teammate I could have.
But this was brilliantly written.
Thank you.
And I mean that. I literally believe this was a love story.
I agree with
and I walked away because he and I were the same era, same everything else. I felt like I had a pretty good handle. I mean, we were friends on Facebook before I even met you. And I walked away. I had no clue. And I applaud. I said this yesterday. I applauded him because that book could not have been written if he wouldn't have let you.
Right.
And so congratulations to you.
Thank you. I think you nailed it. It is a love story. The love story of Todd and finding and loving himself, which has been a lifelong journey. And it's a journey we're all on. How do we really know and love ourselves and be okay with the flaws and the mistakes we make, whether public or private?
Here's what stood out to me, and I said this to Todd yesterday. And again, having dealt with a family member that went through addiction, it's a love story of art. It's a love story of football, baseball. It's really sports. It's a love story with his mother, with his sister. That came through strong. With his father, with teammates.
Oh, yeah.
Larry Smith later, you saw it.
Yeah.
And then it ends with the love story of saying, okay, I don't hate me.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely.
I can love me now.
Yes. And that's what it's about. That's what life's about.
Last thing I have to talk to you about, because I feel like I would be doing the book a disservice. I talked to Todd about this yesterday, but when again, because of our family walking through with a family member, and then Max Crosby, who is not just a guy I cover, he's a dear friend.
Yeah.
And Max has talked about on his journey to sobriety, it's a day-by-day journey. Because it's always in the back of your head. And I know that from a family member. It's always I remember saying to a family member one time, they were 10 years clean, and they said, no, I'm one day.
Yes.
because the day I don't remember, it's on my shoulder again.
You nailed it.
And so to me, and I talk about love story, I mentioned this to Todd, is they said, you have to understand, I love the drugs. Because until I loved myself, I loved the drugs because I didn't like myself. And so, anyways, the thing with me is remembering it's an every day is a new day in sobriety.
You bet. And we don't take a victory lap in this book,
Mm-mm.
not by a long shot. And I think that's the mistake we see, and people sometimes want that, wrap it up with a bow. And the 30 for 30 that on Todd, the Marinovich project, that's, I felt it was a great 30 for 30. What it failed to kind of highlight is that there is no victory lap to be run here. This is for Todd. He says the mornings and the evenings, those are the hardest parts of the day. And he has plenty of good days, but there are plenty of days where just struggle to, keep going, stick on the journey, and be okay that it's not linear, right? The path toward a full recovery, that is an ongoing path that is, I think, one thing he portrays and paints very openly and very honestly that people need to hear.
Yep. Listen, get the book, Marinovich. It really should be a love story because it is brilliantly written. Quite frankly, I saw the 30 for 30, and although I'm not in any way attacking the people that did that, it's nothing. This is the story. This is what you have to read. You got to get this book. Check it out. I'm going to be buying copies for my adult sons, and do it, and you'll thank me later. Lizzy,
Thank you.
what a privilege to spend some time
Thank
with
you.
Thank you.
Feel very fortunate. Thank you, everyone.